Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, saddle up, I'm going to talk to you about some westerns I'm going to be reading for June on the Range. So if you don't know already, June on the Range is a fantastic Western-themed reading event created by the great Michael K. Vaughan. It runs throughout the month of June, as the name would suggest, and it focuses on reading Westerns. So there will be a bunch of co-hosts, and I will link to all of the co-hosts in the description for this video. And Michael has very kindly asked me to be a co-host again, as I was last year in the first year of June on the Range. So I'm really looking forward to it. I had a great time with it last year. And, you know, this is a channel that is really, at its heart, is about popular fiction. And Westerns were a huge part of popular fiction. In, you know, if you think about particularly probably the 40s and 50s, Westerns in the US especially, but also in the UK, were phenomenally popular. And it's a very interesting example of a genre that has just completely fallen out of favour. And, you know, I think a big part of that is down to, you know, people realising some of the terrible things that were done during that era to Native Americans. But it's interesting, isn't it, that it has so massively disappeared from our bookshelves and from cinemas as well. So Westerns were a huge part of the movie industry, you know, in that same kind of period, 40s, 50s. And nowadays, you know, are few and far between. You do still get the occasional one, but they are nowhere near as big a deal as they used to be. So anyway, I've got a stack of books here, which I am considering reading for June on the Road, so I'm certainly not going to read all of these. I will try and read at least one Western a week, I think, during that month. Michael has set a kind of loose theme for it, or loose suggestions for it, in terms of suggesting that people should try and read one Zane Grey book. So Zane Grey, you know, one of the real pioneers of the Western genre, and one Louis L'Amour book. So Louis L'Amour, you know, was a hugely successful author in kind of the 50s and 60s in particular. So I have got a Zane Grey book on my list. I haven't quite got a Louis L'Amour book, but that's mostly because all my Louis L'Amour books are in the attic and I haven't had a chance to go up and find them. I can't remember exactly where they are, but I have got about 10 Louis L'Amour books up there, so I will find those at some point before June and try and read one of those during the month as well. I did almost end up with kind of a loose theme for this, of my own for this, but I haven't quite managed to make it work. But I'll talk to you about what that was by talking about what the first few books are that I'm going to be reading. So the first one is the pick this month for next month for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. So that's the book club that Michael K. Vaughan runs. So, you know, in keeping with Michael's themes for June on the Range, he's picked a Zane Grey book. That book is Lone Star Ranger. So I've read Zane Grey's most famous book, Riders of the Purple Sage. I read that last year for June on the Range and had a really good time with that. So looking forward to giving Lone Star Ranger a try. I also thought I would read the second, is it the second? I also thought I would read another book in the Lonesome Dove series. So I read Lonesome Dove a little while ago by Larry McMurtry and thought it was absolutely fantastic. There are 3 other books in that series. Everywhere I look online, I get a slightly different answer about what order the books were written in and what order you're supposed to read them in and things like that. I think the first one, chronologically, in terms of the lives of the characters, is Dead Man's Walk. So I'm going to read Dead Man's Walk from the Lonesome Dove series as well. And then I'm also going to read Lone Women by Victor Laval, which I've heard absolutely fantastic things about. So a book set right at the end of the Western era, so set in 1915, and I think mixes all sorts of different genres. So, you know, Laval, best known as a horror author, so I think this has, you know, it has kind of horror and magical realism in it, has some mystery in it, but also has definite Western themes. So really looking forward to that one. And then finally, well, not finally, but finally for now, in terms of the ones I think I'm definitely going to read, I have this Elmore Leonard Complete Western Stories. So a huge volume of over 500 pages. So collecting all of the short stories that Elmore Leonard wrote for various kind of mentor magazines during the 40s and 50s, or 50s actually by the looks of it. So from the 50s onwards. So Elmore Leonard, I really love as a crime writer. I've read a couple of his westerns and enjoyed those. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. And I'll be doing this as a buddy read with Alan from the channel Big Hard Books and Classics and Mark from the channel Book Time with Elvis. So my loose theme list, which you may or may not have guessed, is the word lone. So we've got Lone Women, we've got Lone Star Ranger, we've got Dead Man's Walk from the Lonesome Dove series, and then we've got Elmore Leonard, which if you did an anagram, you could get lone. Does that work? I'm not sure it does. Anyway, so those are the things I think I'm definitely going to read. And then other things I've got on my pile here. Oh, actually, I've got another lone one here as well. Actually, I forgot about this. So I've got Long Arm and the Lone Star Rustlers by Tabor Evans. So I've read a couple of the Long Arm books. So Long Arm is like a sheriff detective type character. These are slightly saucy kind of pulp westerns, really entertaining. There was a spin-off series called Lone Star, which is about a female marshal and her kind of ninja sidekick, which I've read one of, and those are really fun as well. So yeah, this is a crossover of the two series. So yeah, I think I will definitely read this one because it looks a lot of fun. And then other things I've got, so when I first started this channel, so my very first video on the channel was a review of Edge the Loner. So you've got Lone there again. The first book in the Edge series by George D. Gilman. So George D. Gilman, a British writer, his real name was Terry Harknett, who turned out loads of westerns in the 70s. I had been reading through that series in order. This is the next one, number 18, which is called 10 Tombstones. So I have lapsed reading those, and I really need to get back into them again. So June on the Range gives me a good excuse to get back into reading the Edge books. And then also from maybe the slightly more popular end of the Western market, we've got Gunman by Lauren D. Esselman, which was very kindly sent to me by one of my subscribers, Rick Croucher, a while ago. Rick's got a channel of his own now, Double O Pipe, which you should definitely check out. I'll try and remember to link to it in the description for the video. It's a really very enjoyable videos to watch, very relaxing. So yeah, Gunman by Lauren D. Esselman. And then I've also got this one, which I bought for June on the Range last year and didn't get around to reading. So by Richard Matheson, who's horror fiction and sci-fi I really, really enjoy. So a couple of westerns by him, Journal of the Gun Years and The Gunfight, both of which are supposed to be excellent. And then we've also got The Authentic Death of Henry Jones, which I've heard is fantastic, by Charles Needer. So I think a bit more of a thoughtful western. Some more Elmore Leonard, if I have time. So this is Library of America edition, which has got, I think, yeah, four novels and some short stories as well. I'm guessing the short stories will all be in that other collection. But yeah, big fan of Elmore Leonard, so it'd be good to dip into those. And then finally, the bulk of my reading for June on the Range last year was taken up with this book, which Michael actually very kindly sent me a copy of. So the Library of America, the Western Collection. So last year I read The Oxbow Incident, The Searchers and Shane from this collection, all of which are excellent. It's also got the fourth book in it, is Warlock by Oakley Hall, which I've heard is quite heavy going. But if I manage to, if I find time in the month, I will try and squeeze that one in as well. So I hope you found that interesting and hope that you will be taking part in June on the Range. If you're going to, leave a comment and let me know what you think you're going to be reading. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.